I thought that I was in love with this man, but I wasn't. I was not faithful in this relationship. A fantasy would be, I guess, a menage. Me and you. Why would I want to date such a weak bitch? I was almost raped. I was addicted to him. I am 48, child free, and I've never been married.
Almost 50 and childless is crazy to come from somebody like Melissa Ford. Are you familiar with Miss Melissa Ford at all?
Um, well, a little bit. I feel like she was mentioned in like rap videos, or either she was in some. I want to say the game might have mentioned her in there in a couple. Yeah. So, so I'm familiar to like a small degree. Like I didn't like I don't know. I feel I feel like she was in the adult entertainment too. I could be wrong. But yeah, just but anyway, yes, I'm somewhat familiar.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I think her and Buffy the Body's name was probably tossed around the most when it comes to those video vixens and stuff. We gonna see.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hot and Bothered with Melissa Ford. Thank you so much for joining me. Whether you are commuting to or from work, or you've already gotten home and you are chilling with a glass of wine, or you're settling into your nighttime routine, I want you guys to just settle in and chill out with me because we're going to have a heart to heart like we've never had before. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Go.
See, so who came up with the title of her? Like, see, that already rubs me the wrong way.
Yo, no, the childless cat lady. I was actually looking at MTR for some reason. I thought he came up with that title, but no, she or they.
Yeah.
I guess. So is hot and bothered? I don't know, guys. I mean, maybe y'all will be able to shine some light on this. Is hot and bothered her?
Yeah, that's actually more on the title that I'm referring to.
Oh, okay,
Like I
okay.
get, I can. Childless cat lady is funny if she came up that, but I guess the title of her podcast show or whatever
Mm,
the hot and bothered is already kind of like, you know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I was about to say, yeah. I would think that she probably came up with this. Maybe the editors and the people that the managers and stuff probably childless cat later. That's gonna be a nice little clickbait, boy. All right,
This is the good stuff. Now, consider this episode a safe space. I really want to have a heart to heart about certain lifestyle choices that I've made. We've all seen the most recent political climate as it relates to the election, and it seems like women, we always seem to be the brunt of some kind of attack. And I don't really understand why. But when JD Vance said this, saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? At first I was offended. And then when I thought about it, I really just had to laugh because never been married, childless cat ladies. Honestly, that sounds like a dream come true to me. I don't know. Like solitude, my own choices, and animals that love me. Oh my God, somebody, call the cops. That sounds like, this sounds awful. But, anyways, I know that I'm not the only one that felt that their life choices were put under attack. So, This episode is called I Am 48, I Am Child Free, and I've never been married. And guess what? That's okay.
Okay. So we've heard quite a bit from this young lady. I am definitely interested to hear what she has to say. Like they say, if you let somebody speak and talk long enough, you start to figure out, what they really believe. Because on the outside, looking in or whatever, somebody can always throw a few lines out there that sounds good initially. But I guarantee you, before the end of this video, I think that she's going to show her cards and show her true self. Because I believe that maybe not all, but I believe that most people would absolutely love to, especially the ones that have found some level of success or whatever, would absolutely love to share that with someone, whether that be with their children, with the family, a husband, marriage, this, that, and the third, or whatever. I think I speak for a majority of people. Most people would absolutely love that. And I think that oftentimes people get into situations younger when they're in their younger ages or whatever, and they become bitter later on in life, and they will start to lie about, I'm good with where I'm at. But when they hit that doggone wall, you know, they start to lie. What are your thoughts on? Do you think that she's being like 100% truthful about what she said? Like, basically just sign me up for that. That's what I wanted anyway.
I feel like it's in our human nature to want some sort of affection, even if you grew up in an environment that kind of veered away from it. But as a child, as a young person, we're nurtured and loved and cared by mom or dad in the beginning, in the first place, and those are like um, hard set.
Hardwired,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
things.
hardwired in us. So you can say some stuff. You can say to try to make yourself believe it, on one of those things where it's like if you say it enough, it'll come true.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm thinking like they try to say it enough to make it come true, but deep down again, like I just said, it's hardwired in us as a youth to always want or seek that affection or just to have someone with you.
Yeah, as much as they see it, you know what I mean. Even when they're growing up, with kids or whatever, you got the Disney fairy tale or whatever to find that prince, find that special someone that you can possibly grow old with, have children with, build, and retire, grow old, whatever. I think that again, most people, if they're being honest, would absolutely want and sign up for that. But I think that oftentimes you have people when they are in their prime, they choose to value and prioritize the wrong things. And then as they start to get in their later years, those options that they once had are no longer there. And so they love to say, listen, I'm not going to settle for just anything or anybody, so I would much rather be single. It's just bad choices. That's what I think. It's just a lot of bad choices.
I never made it down the aisle, but I have been engaged in the past. How many engagements? I would say 2.5.
And to be honest with y'all, that is not a flex at all. That is not a flex.
Let's start with the point 0.5 since that was the first one. I was involved with a man who loved me. He was good looking, he was tall, he was charismatic, gregarious. Everybody loved him. My mom loved him, my sister loved him, my niece loved him, my friends loved him. Everybody loved him.
So what the hell happened? She just named what I would think most people would say the perfect man. Like that's the perfect guy. So how did you F this up? How did you F this up, man?
But there was something inside of me that just said, this is not perfect. It's the furthest thing from perfect. He would say things like, nobody's ever going to love you the way that I love you. And I believed him. I wrestled with this internal sense.
So that was the only thing? That's the only negative thing that I've heard or whatever. Or The way that she's putting it, the only thing negative. That's it. Nobody's gonna ever love you the way that I love you.
That's not a bad thing.
If she just named the perfect man and just said everybody loved him, everybody in her family loved him, but it was just something that just didn't sit right. It wasn't perfect. What relationship you know? What anything do you know that's perfect? Please let me know down in the comments. Is it on Amazon? Because I will go and buy this thing right now.
It's of guilt. I wrestled with the guilt of honestly wanting to be free, honestly wanting to live my life and to date and to experience other men and to experience other things and other.
There it is. There it is right there, people. She just wanted to that's the whole, like, if you just let them speak and talk long enough, they gonna let you know. She just wanted to experience other men. That's all you had to say. Just keep it a man.
Places. I just wanted to live my life.
Okay.
I had moved to New York from Toronto, a totally different country, with $25, 2 suitcases, and a one-way ticket. I didn't have permission from my country to leave. I didn't have permission from this country to be here. And I was making things happen for myself at a very, very rapid pace. And so to find myself inside of a relationship that felt so stifling at this very young age and not having the vocabulary to speak up for myself and articulate that somebody who loves you would not say those things to you. They wouldn't say that nobody will ever love you the way that I love you, because that indicates that there's a part of me that's broken or there's a part of me that's unlovable.
That's her interpretation.
That is a bad interpretation. What? Some part of you is broke? That don't make no damn sense, ma'am. Okay, this is where pretty privilege is effing a lot of people over. Honestly, that pretty privilege and that lack of sense of awareness, you can see it, man. It's definitely kicking in.
But I didn't know how to articulate this. So I stayed in this relationship that I was wildly unhappy in for approximately 3.5 years, close to four. And I have to admit, I was not faithful in this relationship. Nothing that I'm proud of, but I just chalk that up to I was really, really young and I was hood famous.
And that is not a freaking excuse for you to be out here busting it down with every damn Tom, Dick, and Harry. That makes absolutely no sense. I was young and I was hood famous. And staring at the camera like, you're not gonna get no damn round of applause for that. This is bad behavior, man.
You know, I was on the covers of magazines,
So?
on your local newsstand. So everybody recognized me, and that was another source of pressure that I felt.
So you felt like you need to sleep with people because they recognized you. Okay.
Being inside of this relationship rather than being free to explore all of my options. And so one day I was going through some drawers, you know, folding laundry, placing clothes, you know, in the drawers and such. And I found it. I found a box. And when I saw it, I said, please, God, don't let this be what I think it is. And I opened the box. And there it was. It was a ring. And the only thing that I could think was that it was an engagement ring. It sure as hell was not a promise ring. We were way beyond that. We were not in high school. I was not wearing this boy's varsity jacket. This was an engagement ring.
I want to pause right there because I guarantee you she's regretting it. I guarantee a part of her is regretting that. She's not gonna say it. Trust me, that people like this got too much pride, and they gonna keep this type of stuff to themselves. Even though, you know, it's supposed to be a safe space, and she's supposed to be open and being honest. Right, or that dog, that little poodle that's been running around here. See, man, it sucks because I would absolutely love for, you know, everybody to have somebody. But when you make mistakes like this, and you can't even be open and be honest about and say, yo, this was a mistake. I can tell you right now, I made a mistake at almost 50 years old. Ma'am, you are almost 60. God. And you can't even be honest about like this is blowing my mind right now, man. Perfect. He was tall. I imagine he was probably handsome. Everybody loved him, so he had to have some good character. You know what I mean? But it was just something off because she never said anything about him being mentally, physically, or emotionally abusive outside of nobody's gonna love you the way that I love you. Boy.
And if I knew this man the way that I knew him, that proposal was going to be very public. And that terrified me. I didn't want to have to say no in front of our friends and family and publicly humiliate him. He did not deserve that, but I also could not see myself saying yes in front of everybody just to save face and then later on have to break it to him like that this is not something that I was going to be able to go forward with. So what I did instead was I packed up all my belongings while he was out of town and put them in storage and flew back to Canada. And then I had the conversation about us breaking up over the phone. I know what you're probably thinking as well. Yo, Melyssa, that's fucked up. I know. It took years for me to make peace with this decision. I have self-flagellated over this decision. I have beaten myself up every way to Sunday that you possibly can. I tried to reconcile with him at one point, which was a big mistake.
Okay, I'm gonna give her a little bit of grace. That was my bad. At least she apologized and she admitted it. That was my bad.
That is the 0.5.
I had an ugly duckling phase. Don't tell anybody. I destroyed all the pictures, so there's no proof. Before I became a video model and a model, and I was like known as the brain amongst all my friends. You know, so I was studying forensic psychology with a minor in English literature in university. So the fact that I started to become known more for my looks than my brain is kind of ironic. The attention just snowballed, and I started to see that I was able to, you know, make a business out of it. If it didn't make money, it didn't make sense.
Society places an enormous amount of pressure on us to check certain boxes. The box of go to school and excel. You've got to pursue a career based on what you went to school for. And you've got to excel and become successful, and you have to have your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year plan, all while you're in your 20s. Get married, get the white picket fence, and have 2.3 kids. Never figured out the point situation when it came to the statistics, because like what's a third of a kid? But I digress on that. The problem with the boxes is that we never check in with ourselves. It is never, ever, ever our first thought as to, well, what is it that I actually want? I am now, you know, welcoming into my circle a lot of women who checked all those boxes. And for all intents and purposes, a lot of the stuff really actually did not work out. Yes, they ended up with the children, but they ended up in sometimes a loveless, sometimes an abusive, and sometimes a marriage of convenience.
So these people were not vetting correctly then. That's what my guess is. Again, I'm pretty sure, you know, when she be honest and come to the front of the congregation or whatever, the issue is a lot of people are basing relationships, getting with somebody, off of physical attraction. And they allow that to lead them into long-term relationships, marriages, and they wonder why later on in life that those things are not sustainable. Character, morals, values, these type of things that most people don't pay attention to the reason why a lot of them are getting in and out of relationships, jumping from one relationship to the next, in and out of other people's beds, is because they don't do the work. They overlook things. They go after the bad boy, the thick girl, or whatever. And you wonder why later on these things are not working. It's like the blind following the blind. And I guarantee you, Melyssa Ford, along with everybody else in her circle, probably think the same exact way in an echo chamber. And you wonder why. Nobody out of the group has any real common sense. Nobody in the group knows how to vet correctly. Nobody in the group has a successful marriage or successful relationship. And they're not actively looking for it. They're just looking for somebody that's going to agree with them. Guaranteed.
Sometimes they didn't even get the marriage, they just got the kids. And they inherited a whole lot of struggle and strife. And it's not to say that their choices are better or worse than the choices that I made. These are just choices. Mm-hmm. But for us women, I feel like our choices oftentimes have never really, really belonged to us. And when we have tried to exert our sense of independence, we are shamed for it. At this point, let me go on to the second engagement. So
before she gets into the second, let's just go ahead and bring this to the front of the congregation real quick. I wanted to, get into this. I think that the reason why a lot of these individuals are shamed is because you get online and you complain about the choices that you make or the choices that you have made. So what do you think people are going to do? They're going to hold you accountable. Like, you made that choice. And instead of looking at it like shaming, no, we're just, hey, look at yourself in the mirror. Look at the person in the mirror. The reason why you're in the situation that you're in is because of that person that's in the mirror. So stop trying to reflect and deflect and say that, the reason why I'm in this situation is because my ex, is because of my mom, my dad. No, you made those choices as a grown adult. So take accountability. Ain't got nothing to do with shame, ma'am. Got anything you want to add to this? Slide past.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I would say pretty much like how you just said it, just the choices that you made, and um just, this may sound kind of harsh. Probably not as harsh as what you just said.
Speak your mind.
Yeah, they just didn't know. I don't know. I want to say they just didn't know how to make the right decisions. So they made poor decisions. Poor choices.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that most people know right from wrong?
Okay.
I'm just asking. Do most people know right from wrong?
Yes. So yes, I think so. Yes, I think they do know right from wrong. And to be honest with you, I've been thinking of. I've been. I don't know how to articulate what I've been thinking, because I feel like some. I feel like people do know what's a better choice or what choice they should pick, but they go against themselves. Like, it's something within them that's like she said, like she knew everyone loved him. She knew that he was a good guy, characteristics, height, and everything, all that stuff. But it still wasn't perfect for her. So it's like something inside of these people that's just like, am I feel what's the fear? I feel like it's a fear, or am I fearful of what could be like in a positive way? Am I all, they're self-sabotaging and stuff like that. So I'm just like, what's in there that, you see this shiny and it's flawless. Technically, you would say it's flawless for you, for your situation, but you have over here some sort of void or something like that. It's just I've been thinking about that for a while with people making, since we've been talking about relationships and people making decisions, and it's you know taking them down a road that she's been down or a similar road like that. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm just it's still an ongoing kind of like problem solving.
So I would say because one of the things that she mentioned early on was I felt like, or she feels like, women have never had a choice. So if you look at, in the past or whatever, when I guess you can say men had a say so in women being married and stuff like that. We were married at a 80% rate, and things seem to be going pretty decent. And then when you fast forward to the 2000s, 2020, let's just say 2025. Now, women are not being married. In fact, it seems like they're making even worse decisions now that they're out here on their own, unfortunately. You know, uh, debt over their head with student loan debt. They're out here having, children or whatever, and they're complaining about the choices that they are making. And they get on the internet and they complain. I've seen so many TikToks of women crying about being a single mother, got 5 kids, complaining, openly complaining on the internet, and then get upset when people, men and women, make reaction videos about them putting these type of things on the internet. You are complaining about the decisions that you have been making. Again, just to Melyssa Ford's point, she was like, I feel like we've never had a choice in the matter. So now you have been having a choice. And look at where you are right now. I think they said, what, 1 in 4, 1 in 3 women now are on some type of psychotic meds, depression, overweight, all of these different things. When you take men out of the equation, or when you have the opportunity to make the choices that you want to make in life, you're older, childless, no family, and like she said, a childless cat lady at 50 years old. Vivica A. Fox, Tamara Mari, or whatever her name is, Tia, whatever, making the worst type of decisions when the ball is in your court. But we're gonna let them cook. My bad, y'all.
I'm 28 years old and I have left the previous relationship, the point five, and I have met this man who, the minute I saw him, I knew I was going to be with him. He just, he just was it. I don't know how to describe it. And the second I heard his voice, I said, I'm gonna marry this man. I don't know what it was. Like, he had this Louisiana drawl. It's my favorite Southern accent. He was huge, like 6'1", 246 pounds of hulking muscle. He had skin the color of like red clay. He had this thick neck, big round head. He had this crooked tooth that drove me wild. His flaws were like manna from heaven for me. And I loved his dirty draws, and I could just sleep in his armpit right after he played a game of like pickup basketball. That is how much I loved this man. And our courtship was a whirlwind. He wined and dined me. He bought me lovely, lovely gifts. I'd wake up to those
The bad boy.
Yeah,
baby blue
and
Tiffany
like you was
box.
just saying, she said nothing about his character, his
Ev-
personality.
Physical, all physical. Yep, everything physical. Everything that she's naming is all physical.
Physical, yeah, like the gifts and stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
No substance.
Yeah, no level.
boxes just laid on the pillow right next to me. Um, we could go to my favorite store, and as long as I put on a little fashion show for him, everything I wanted I could get. But when I say that the gifts really mattered nothing to me, it was this man. He was the gift to me. Uh, that's just the fact. And we were 6 months into our relationship when the first sign of trouble appeared. I was in Denver for All Star Weekend, and I was working for BET at the time. So I had a lot of responsibilities. I had to make a lot of appearances, I had to interview a lot of people, and a lot of those people were athletes. And he was back home. And I did not know that he was jealous. It didn't even cross my mind. And so when I got home after an event and I was perturbed by, an interaction with a strange man at a party that I had been at. He'd said something vile to me and it hurt my feelings. And all I wanted was to be comforted. And so I went back to my hotel room and I called my boyfriend and I just asked him to just tell me that he thought that I was beautiful and that he loved me. And he didn't do that. He just pressured me to tell him what happened. Why are you asking me to do this? And so I told him what happened, and he responded by saying, "Why would I want to date such a weak bitch that would be that offended by what some strange guy has to say to her?" There's just no way that he just said that to me.
I want to pause it real quick, and I know I might get some pushback about this. Outside of the B word, I don't see nothing wrong with what he just said. Yo, hear me out. Hear me out. Why in the world are you allowing another guy's opinion about you to bother you so much? I'm curious, right? But listen. All jokes aside, you sent, or it sounds like she had, I'm not even gonna say the best of both worlds, because I think the best of both worlds probably would have been the first guy. But if you were searching for that crazy attractiveness or whatever from somebody, you had it, right? You had everything that you wanted. She said, a thick neck. You had the thick neck guy that you wanted. The tall, had all of these things that was doing it for you, right? But it took you 6 months to realize that he didn't have the right characteristics that you wanted in somebody. What happened to that love at first sight and all this other stuff? Like, she's if it's love, you're gonna work through that thing, right? I mean, I don't know. I thought you hear them fairy tales and stuff. This is what they talk about.
Yeah, you hear the fairy tales and stuff. As a woman, I want to defend her because of the emotional side.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't say he's wrong about what he said. Maybe it's the tone or the way that he said it too.
What be no?
Yeah, especially that part. So, and I mean, like the way that our women are set up is crazy, to be honest with you. So the expectations, I see where she's coming from. That's all I could say. That I could see where she comes from. There's been like bunch of memes and stuff about that. Like, he should telepathically know that I want affection and stuff like that. So it's a little unrealistic. So I could see where she was coming from, but I wouldn't say that he was wrong in what he was saying. I would just say that maybe the approach and how he said it, and of course the B word was just, too much for her to handle at that time.
I'm thinking, right? I'm finding it extremely hard to believe that this never peaked its head before 6 months.
Oh, it probably did.
Because she said, came her words, not mine. I'm gonna try to sum it up. This pretty much came from out of nowhere. This characteristic or whatever about him being jealous. You've never seen any of this beforehand. So are you not vetting correctly? Like, how much time are y'all spending together? Like, are y'all living with each other? How many dates have y'all had within these 6 months? You mean to tell me not one time did this peak its head? And listen, I know people in this industry. I'm not saying, this is all of them, but people that I actually have friends that are in this industry, right? And I know how things go. Like within everything seemed like it's accelerated. They meet, they hook up, and the rest is history. But they spend a lot of time with each other, is what I'm saying. A lot of time. Outside of work, they're spending time with each other. So you're telling me during this time when y'all are walking outside, when y'all are going to the mall, chilling with each other out and about in public, that this never peaked his head? I call cap, man. And so many people do this. Like this person, they just flip flop right after we got married. They flip flop right after the baby. They flip flopped after, they got after they got the goods. I can kind of see that but we ain't gonna get into that.
I would say, as previously stated, you vetted incorrectly.
Mhm.
You're not even really paying attention to, I'll just use the term, just to the red flags. You're not even still paying attention to those red flags until they pretty much smack you in the face.
I think they see them. Like they done smacked them in the face, but they just choose a wipe. You know what? We good. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even gonna pay that. No, we good. We straight, fam. Like this man just pushed you down. Oh, he just called you. He just called you out of your name. But y'all just laughed about it, right? But I'm gonna wait 6 months on down the line to bring this point up. No, see, you switched up after 6 months. I called you that same word, like what the third week after he had done got the goods, man. We gonna let her rock.
I'm sorry, what? And he said, you heard me. And I said,
Not doubling down.
I'm really confused right now. And he was like, I'm sure you are. I felt like I was talking to a stranger. There's no way that this was the person that I had just spent the last 6 months with, completely absorbed with, and in the throes of like love and ecstasy with. And I said, I'm glad that I'm finding out who you really actually are now rather than later. He said, yeah, I'm sure you are. Click. And hung up the phone on me. I cried myself to sleep that night. And the next day, I had to cover a ladies' luncheon, the wives of the NBA. And so I had to be perfect and pretty. And I had to act like the man of my dreams had not just told me to basically go F myself. And so while I was getting ready, a large bouquet of flowers was delivered. My makeup artist said, Mel, you should read the card. And it said, you are beautiful to me and I love you. And I'm sorry. And then his name. I burst into tears. It just flew out of my face. So basically, my whole beat face just melted. And I called him and I said, I received your flowers. And he said, I am so sorry. And I told him, I'm going to forgive you because I love you. But you can't ever speak to me like that ever again. He's like, I promise I won't. So whenever people wonder, how do people end up in abusive relationships and why do you stay? The reasons are aplenty, but I will start by saying that that is not the way that it begins. It begins with love bombing. It begins with flowers, candy, gifts, and the wonderful sex, and the cuddles, and the pillow talk. And this is how it begins. And it can last for a lengthy amount of time before that person really shows up. The true version of themselves shows up. And by that point, you start to bargain with yourself, and they start to apologize. And their apologies are usually very, very sincere, because at the end of the day, I truly believe that they believe their apologies are real. They just have an illness inside of them. And I would also venture to say that the first signs of abuse are usually not physical. And by the time it gets to physicality, you start to reason that you were an active participant in it. You start to reason with yourself that you started the fight by angering him or saying something that was out of pocket. Or you reason with yourself that you are no shrinking violet. So it's not like you got hit and cowered in a corner. You fought back. These are the things that you reason and bargain with yourself that allow you to stay in this level of toxic relationship. And so, as much as I would love to say that that was the last time that he spoke to me in that way, and that was the last time that I received it, that would not be the truth.
I want to pause it right there, because